Good evening from the Vinewood Bowl in Los Santos, San Andreas. I'm James Hill, and I'm joined by my dear friend Montana Moss, and we're pleased to welcome you all to the Spring 2026 Gubernatorial Debate. We'd like to take this chance to ask everyone to please ensure their mobile phones are turned off or put on silent, as this can disrupt the debate. We'd like to take this opportunity to thank Securiserve, San Andreas State Police, San Andreas Park Rangers, for providing event security. And we also want to thank our friends down at Craft Bar for providing food and refreshments for this evening, courtesy of the San Andreas Electoral Commission. Please feel free to stop by their food truck and grab a bite and something to wash it down. All of the candidates here have agreed to follow the outlined rules of debate. For those in our live audience, here are the debate rules. Questions will be directed to each candidate, and each candidate will have roughly 90 seconds to respond to the question. A maximum of 90 seconds for the candidate, a maximum that is sometimes, for the candidate to answer the question. It will be a bit more discretionary, depending on whether we're getting getting some meat going here. Following the question, there will be 3 minutes of debate among the candidates, with an extra 2 minutes for leeway for any direct questions. All direct questions must be asked in under 30 seconds. Of course, we do have discretion as to how many questions are asked. And for the public, please raise your hand if you want to ask a direct question. We don't, unfortunately, have the budget for a Bill Smith-style buzzer as we did in previous ones, so unfortunately it will be verbal. So you'll get an which will be your buzzer for this evening. That will basically be the end of your time to speak here. That's also for the candidates. Please make sure you follow it, just to be absolutely sure we don't run over on time.
We ask that the guests for tonight's debate remain quiet, not clap or boo for any candidate. Disruptive candidates and guests will be removed from the event and shamed publicly, very publicly. Questions from this debate have not been shared with any candidate and have been formulated by Weasel News, us moderators, in addition to some questions submitted to us by the public. For this event, 3 of the 4 candidates are in attendance. Without further ado, we will begin the debate by allowing each candidate approximately 15 seconds to introduce themselves to the public. And we'll beginning from the moderator's left.
Well, hi there. I'm Bert O'Neill, running for governor. Nice to meet you all there. I don't know what else to say, and I don't know how long 15 seconds is there, so there we go,
Next.
Hello, I'm Luke Holliday. I'm running to be your governor. I hope through this debate I can earn your support and your votes.
Hello, my name is Bellarosa Muratori, and I'm running to be your governor, San Andreas, running on a campaign of transparency, communication, and community engagement.
Okay, thank you to the candidates for those introductions. We are going to start with some more general questions before we get into questions tailored for specific candidates. Question number 1 will be to candidate Mercer. What particular group of people do you aim to improve the situation of throughout your term, and how do you plan to do so? You have 90 seconds.
I plan to help the citizens out there because I feel like some of the government agencies kind of hide information, like where the speed roadmap is. It's completely hidden behind the criminal code, especially with the new license point systems there. Why is it so hidden? I feel like information like that should be provided to our citizens with much more easier access instead of being hidden behind a bunch of paperwork. Other departments too, just not PD there. I feel like our citizens deserve that kind of information now that they can lose their license over 30 points, things like that shouldn't just be hidden behind a bunch of bureaucracy and red tape and, a bunch of stuff to read through, That stuff should be easy to find. A good example there is if you ever go in your iFind app, the Parks Department, you can go through all their stuff easily. You can find all the hunting maps easily there. You can find even the diving maps easily there. You can also find all the rules for hunting, so why are the other departments not providing such easy access for important information to our citizens,
Okay, we'll open up the floor for other candidates to provide discussion and rebuttals to that. You have 3 minutes.
Don't all talk at once.
Does
Please ensure you're shouting if you're not already, just to be...
yes?
Sorry, did you want us to stand every time we speak, or?
You can if you want to, yeah.
It is
Completely
your
up to you.
choice.
I do believe my lieutenant governor candidate here, Amar McGrath, has made an excellent point. The speed map is available in the penal code, and while that may not be quite as easily as accessible as the Parks Department website, which I do have to agree with Mr. O'Neill is fantastic, I do feel that it is available, and at the same time, it would be great if it was more publicly available and easier for everyone to navigate.
I do have a question for you, Mr. O'Neill. When it comes to the license points, what portion of that is not specifically publicly accessible in your opinion?
Oh no, it's the license point. The license points aren't the issue. It's just the fact that now that there are license points, why is that information so hidden deeply in the penal code? Like, why wasn't it provided with much more easier access for citizens to gather and use, especially now that there's license points exist? I'm for the license point system. I'm tired of seeing cars fly 150 miles down Legion or other popular roads there are busy places. I'm just saying, if we're going to come out with that kind of system, the speed limit map shouldn't be hidden behind all the way in the back of the penal code there. It
It's
should
at
have
the
been
front of the penal code.
Oh, I was told it was in the back. I don't know if it changed or not there. Last time I looked, it was in the back.
I didn't
but
even
that's
look.
my fault.
Unless
there.
it's moved, and I'm happy to be proven wrong if I'm wrong, but the last I had known, it was in the front of the penal code.
Oh, if it's been moved, but last time I looked, it was all the way in the back. I'm not saying like it's a bad system there. I'm just
No,
saying
no. So with
like why is one department making it so easy, but then all the other departments are playing spy ops with citizens there.
As far as the points for driver's licenses, the method in which those are done are very public within the legislation.
Oh, yeah. Again, the points aren't
and
my
it's very
issue.
new.
Yeah.
Very new. So getting that integrated into the penal code for what the level of transparency you're asking for takes time.
Oh, yeah, I understand that, but I feel like if you're gonna do something like the license point system, then if you're gonna do all that work, make a whole new build and like things like that, there should be checks and balances. Citizens have a right to information like that. It shouldn't just be like a hard place to find. Now, if it's in the front now, that's more acceptable there. I agree with that. Oh.
That is the 3 minutes. We're going to move on to the next question.
Yes. So this is for candidate Luke Holliday. So what are your thoughts on the current state of the San Andreas State Police? What improvements do you want to see from the department in your team?
Yeah, I think the current state of the San Andreas State Police definitely needs some improvement. I would love to see more community outreach done for them. I think recent events have left a fracture in the relationship between your average citizen and the police. I see that as something that needs to be repaired. I'd love to see some more community outreach. I think we have what's believed as a negative relationship with them. I would love to see that improve, whether that be through just general community outreach, maybe some community enrichment. I think there are things that can be done to improve them. I think the way they operate, for the most part, is within the benefit of the citizens of San Andreas. But I would love them to see, I'd love to see them do more to help out people every day. So, let's see on that.
Thank you very much, Gubernatorial candidate Holliday. So we open the floor for debate. You have 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, my ADHD kicked in and auditory processing became an issue for a second there. Did you say communication was one of the things?
No, I said
Okay.
community outreach. No, I think
Community
they do.
outreach. There.
Yeah, I do think they try their best to be as transparent and visible as possible. I mean, obviously, we could always be looking for more from anyone, but I think they do a good job. It's not something I would currently harp on them about.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, they have an entire business that is supposed to be dedicated to that sort of thing. But what does that look like for you? Is I guess my question when it comes to community outreach.
I mean, what does it look like? I think it looks like, whether it be maybe a self-defense course and helping sure our, citizens are staying safe out there. Maybe it's, basic information. Maybe they're holding courses on like, oh, hey, here's why we're enforcing the laws this way. Obviously, it's their job to enforce them, not necessarily to regulate and talk about them. But I think a little bit, more visibility on them showing out on this would help. You mentioned the business that's supposed to do that. I think the keyword there is supposed to. I don't think we see it as much as we should. It is, it's a problem. I think if we think back to the Mirage incident that happened, a few months ago, I think, that very much damaged the relationship between the police and, your average citizen. And I think it put a lot of negative mindset on them. And I think that's something that needs to be improved. I would love to see improvement from our SASP about that.
In regards to the Mirage incident, because I know what you're talking about, but I think there's, and as a former police officer, there's a lot of nuance when it comes to those types of situations, and I don't think we have the full scope of what exactly happened there. We have one side of telling us one thing, we have the police telling us what they can, because obviously at the time it was an active investigation, some things you can't release. I think before we go too far into that, we might want to hear the full context of everything that happened.
Sure, I agree.
I agree the whole situation was crap, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah, but my problem resolves in, yes, I would gladly wait to hear what they have to. Obviously, it's an active investigation, but, afterwards, feels like we haven't heard anything in regards of, what decisions were made, why those decisions were made,
Yeah, I agree with Luke on that one.
I think it's,
I
they need
agree
to be
with you
held
as well.
accountable. Like it's unfortunate. A lot of people got hurt because of it. And
Absolutely. I'm not saying that we shouldn't see the full scope of everything that happened there. I think it would alleviate a lot of misconceptions on one side or the other, or it may lead to more questions.
Isn't that where more community outreach would help that kind of situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree
when
with
you say
Luke on
community
that.
outreach, to me, I think of community outreach in the way of events and interfacing with the public and the PD interfacing.
Yes, having like a face to be able
Yeah,
to put to the
like,
name of.
When
SSP.
have we seen a PD event recently?
I mean, I will.
I won't disagree with you there.
I will say they have done things to help out. At the Black Hawk Winter Ball, PD did sponsor and chose to help, run it. However, that is a very minor thing. It was under the name of Black Hawk Coffee, but I don't know people.
Sorry.
Okay.
It's a very good
Just
buzzer.
wanted to make sure. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next question. Thank you very much.
This one is on a similar topic, but it will be directed to candidate Belrosa Muratori. If police morale drops due to public criticism, would you publicly defend the department while investigations into misconduct are ongoing? If yes, would you at the same time publicly retract that support if the allegations came out to be true?
So this is a very funny one, especially for Mr. Moss to give me, because we actually had a conversation on the topic earlier this week. I think in the case of alleged police misconduct, I am not making a statement until I know 100%, or at the very least 99.5%, what has happened and what actually matters in the case. I don't want to ever make a public statement again without 100% backing or as best as I can. Obviously, that means that there may be times where the state is looking for me to communicate better, and I can only do the best I can with the information that I have. But what I can do the best is find that information.
With nothing further, we'll open up to any other candidates for rebuttals for 3 minutes. Here you go.
Not a rebut, but I do agree with Bella. Oh my God. About the same about making public statements without knowing all the details. I completely agree with you. I've also fallen prey to that, where I've made a rash decision on making a posting about things like that. I think making sure we have the full scope and details and the nuances of everything is needed. I think, understanding when you've made that mistake and, owning it is also a critical thing as well.
Absolutely. I think that being a public figure requires a little bit more nuance and caution than any of us as public citizens maybe have been used to. But all I can do is promise to do my best and to seek out the complete truth before making an opinion or stating such.
I agree to that. I think, you should figure out the full story before you just say something, get all the facts before you just start saying things there. Especially as a governor, you should have you should have facts before you just start spouting nonsense there.
Given that discussion has stalled and stopped on this question, we are going to move on to the next one.
Yes, indeed. This is for candidate Bert O'Neill. Do you believe that voters deserve to know in advance how you would approach controversial legislation, or should they simply trust your judgment? And can you provide an example of a previous bill which you would refuse to approve?
Yeah, I can do that. For me, I feel like, they should know how we stand before they vote, because that's why they're voting there. They should know, like, how I'm going to be as a governor, my stance on things, my opinions there, my beliefs, things like that, Those are important, but to get into a bill, I'm not a big fan of the new, I used to work for the apartment, well, I still kind of do. I don't know about that one there. But like the new hunting bill, it's just kind of, if you go hunting there like I do or go fishing all the time, like I understand the whole seasonal thing there, but as someone who hunts often, I'm hoping that like, the new maps, because like boars are really hard to find there, so are other animals, So when you're hunting there, how do I know if I'm going to be in a season or in a certain area where the animals are provided, Or am I going to have to wait for a whole new season to get the animal that I'm looking for there? I'm hoping that like the right amount of research and dedication was done there. I didn't really agree with that bill. I thought that the hunting bill was perfectly fine the way it was before, it went and was signed in. But everyone has their opinion and their different stances on things.
Thank you very much. So we'll open the floor for debate on that topic.
I can speak very clearly on the hunting bill and how much work did go into it. That bill had been being worked on for at least 2 months prior to when it was pushed. There were several studies that were done before it was brought to the legislation to be written. It was ran through multiple departments, multiple checks and balances before it was pushed to the floor to be voted upon. The seasonal hunting was to allow for more areas to be allowed to be hunted. So, I mean, that bill went through a rigorous oversight before it was pushed.
So just because we've got quite a bit of time on the debate, I'll ask all the candidates actually on this. How are you going to approach controversial legislation? Or should they just, as I posed in the question, should the public just trust in your judgment? The floor is very much still open on that one.
Yeah, with controversial legislation, I think, transparency, communication is key. I think making it known that, there's legislation you intend to push that may be controversial is key. I think people shouldn't just blindly, throw that trust in me. I hope they would, but, I want to make sure they know what I'm pushing and what I'm going to stand for. So I would like to make it known, whether that be through like posting on social media, whether I'm hosting a town hall. I think making sure it is known, hey, this is what I'm looking to do. I hope you support this. If you don't, make your voices known. Let me hear what you don't like, what you do like, and I'll take that into consideration. And hopefully we'll make the necessary changes I can to, earn the support and whatnot.
Sorry, go ahead, Bert.
No, go ahead.
I do agree with what Mr. Holliday is saying. I think in the case of a controversial bill, before I sign anything into being, I want to get the opinions of the populace that elected me. So whether that be through community outreach, through just simply being like, hey, we're going to do a town hall on this day at this time, whether it be through setting up a submission form for people who may or may not be able to make it to the town hall to submit their opinion, or through simple like boots to the ground, going to businesses and places where people gather and speaking to them, making sure that the people's opinions are reflected in the actions of the state.
I gotta agree with both. Having meetings, town halls. Talking to the departments too about the legislation, just not the citizens. Get all voices heard there, all opinions. That's what matters there, because you know, I'm voted in by the people, so I should also listen to the people. So when legislative like that comes up, I listen to the folks and I hear them before I make a big decision like that just on my own. Because that's why we were voted in. Folks chose me to. They trusted in me there. If I do get it, But yeah, the hearing their voices before something like that's very important.
I personally think controversy can open up lines of communication that are already are not spoken out loud. For example, Amara, when she brought out the RICO bill, it caused quite a few controversy, and she took all of them onto into like into her own opinion and immediately went back to the drawing board with it. So I think it's super important that there are reasons why controversies pop up, and I think it's really important to educate yourself for everyone's point of view, because sometimes you don't know the real reasons behind why this is being put in place. So it's all about educating.
Thank you very much, candidates. Okay, we'll move on to the question.
As this question is for candidate Holiday, Lieutenant Governor has mostly been a ceremonial position in prior administrations. What responsibilities do you plan for your Lieutenant Governor to take on?
Yeah, LC is going to serve as someone who I bounce off with really well. Anything I'm looking to, bring up, anything like that, I'm going to obviously hear her opinion first. She's a trusted friend. I would gladly hear her reasoning.
Very opinionated.
We butt heads more often than but because of that, we help each other see the other side much easier, and I think that's what I would use her mainly as my drug horse. She'd also serve as my first point of contact for anything. If any of you guys know Elsie, she's an extremely personable person. She is a ball of energy, so I think she serves as a great first point of contact for that, and I think it'll help anything that may need to be heard can easily be accessed by her. So.
Well, we will open up for the other candidates on this topic.
Much like Mr. Holliday, I do intend on bouncing everything off of Amara, and that is not only because she is a fantastic friend to me and a wonderful person, but because Amara has extensive legislative experience that I do not, and understanding that I am going from a very different background than many other candidates, I want to make sure that I am making the right choices and speaking to other individuals in the correct way. So in a lot of cases, Amara will be my sounding board in addition to being something of a legislative assistant, if and when needed.
The reason I chose Brian is because, if you need to make a deal in this city, that's who you go to, I've never seen anyone make better deals than that guy there. We also get along really well, He's my good friend here. He's a confidant. I chose him because if there's anyone that's going to steer me in the right direction, it's probably him, except maybe sometimes it's in a crazy direction, but that's just the fun party. But I do my best and he does his best. And, again, if anything big happens where there needs to be like some sort of big deal that goes on, I wouldn't trust anyone else to be at my side for that,
What kind of deals does Mr. Barry normally make?
Used cars deals,
Okay.
He can answer that.
I'll be in the used car industry. I started off trying to, like everybody else here, I started off trying to make a little profit. But it got to a stage where I just prefer the networking. I like to get amongst everybody. I like to meet all kinds of folks, and I feel like the networking circle that I have and the power and the gift of the gab would help Mr. O'Neill as the governor here to be able to reach out, speak to everybody, and get their points of views.
Okay. So if you are elected, what kind of deals do you look to make?
The deals that I would be looking to transfer my negotiation skills over to the legal side of things. I'm trying to get out of the used car business because I personally I like to help people. And it started off with the cars. Now I try to help people in any way possible. So this would just be an extension of my current ability.
And maybe deals wasn't the right word, more like,
Yeah.
helping folks out.
I would like to address the ceremonial position portion of that question, and I can understand why it typically seems like that because the lieutenant governor is a role that tends to do a lot of work behind the scenes, but it is absolutely not what I would consider a ceremonial position, and I don't think I've ever seen it used that way, not in the last couple of terms at least. The governor's time in the state is the most valuable resource that we have as the citizens, and it shouldn't be more focused on departmental friction and administrative bottlenecks. That's what the lieutenant governor is there for, which is a lot of that is behind the scenes, and that's resolving disputes between agencies and legislation before they ever hit the governor's desk. It's the lieutenant governor's job to handle the friction so that the governor can focus on more major issues. And I personally would rather be a workhorse than a show horse. Because if the government's running smoothly and you don't see me, typically means the system's working.
All right, we have reached our 3 minutes on that question, so we do need to
okay.
move on to the next one.
Hanging.
All right, so this is for candidate Villarosa Muratori. So we've had an awful lot of discussion about transparency and the like. But do you think there's ever circumstances where unity should take priority over transparency?
I think that unity should take place over transparency in matters that may result in a public panic. Right now, we are going through something of like an eco-terrorist crisis. I understand that Governor Jeremy Barbant was assaulted by one of these eco-terrorists, and I feel that if information is incomplete and is more likely to cause discord than peace, then it should be held on to until a time that it can be released without, significant public panic and chaos.
Thank you very much. Now we open the floor for a 3-minute debate.
I agree with the unity thing. I think that matters. Like departments should have unity. They should be able to feel safe and comfortable with their jobs there before they release something big. I still think transparency matters. It was brought up earlier, but like I think we're all still waiting to hear about that art job, right? I don't think there's been any like release about that from the PD, and that was what, back in December, so or November. I don't know how long ago that was. But like unity is important there, but how long can we last on? How long should unity last for you? Like it's important there, but eventually you should let the folks know, like the situation, like what happened, like just not that incident, but other things. Like unity is great, but eventually you should be able to, be transparent with your mistakes and let the citizens know you made an or made an oopsie.
Yeah, like both the kids have said, there's a thin line I think between transparency and unity. I think making sure people know what's going on. I lean a little more line towards transparency. I think making sure there is an idea of any threats, problems, issues occurring in our state is something that people need to be aware of. They don't need to be left in the dark. I think it's one of those where, like to mention, the Mirage, we haven't heard anything in months. And it's caused, I think, more of a divide than it's brought unity. And it's a real problem we're seeing, and it needs to be mended. So,
Like another issue, like all of our ice contacts got deleted last weekend, because there's apparently like a new computer system or something there. I was only one yeet sent out there to let everyone know in the state that their ice contacts were deleted, It was just one yeet there from the hospital there. That's a pretty important thing, People should know that their ice contacts have been deleted, and it shouldn't just be through a yeet. That's just me
Mr.
there. Well, unless I'm wrong,
Actually, there was a press release released by the Department of Health that did include that information.
I understand you there, but all the folks I've talked to while I've campaigning, they've only ever talked about that one yeet, They've never talked about a press release. Most folks I tell their ice contacts have been deleted. They're surprised they've been deleted there. It's been like there might have been a press release, but that's important information that, a lot of folks should just, most folks I run into, they just found out that their ice contacts were released. Ice contacts were deleted as soon as I told them about it. So, there's a lot of...
Well, beyond doing a press release or sending it out on social media, which are
there's a
very
public alert
thing,
system,
But I don't know that that's what the public alert system is specifically designed for.
Ice contacts are very important, Those
I
are very
don't
important
disagree
things
with you.
there. Why do I, as a parks person, just get to tell folks I'm doing licenses for fishing and hunting, but then the hospital can't tell folks through a public alert that their ice contacts have been deleted, Like, that's a huge difference there. One's just a license to help you go fishing. One's to let the important people in your life know that you've been hurt, So if they couldn't do a public alert there, then that department or whoever's controlling that needs to have a real talk with whoever gets voted for governor, 'Cause that's a real serious problem there, that ice contacts were deleted and all it was a yeet and one press release there. There was never a public alert. There was never one press release and one yeet, Like that's
I feel
an
like
important
I've
thing
seen
there.
more than one yeet. Obviously, I can't go through the yeeter archive, but I
But
believe they
why are you
post
using yeet?
daily.
Why are you using yeeter there?
Because it is the most commonly used thing in this state. And
You're
the
telling me
most
public
publicly
alerts wouldn't be more
used in this
visible than
state.
a yeeter there?
Possibly, it stays up there. The public alerts are only there for a certain predetermined
Well, yeah,
amount of
but
time.
if Steve saw the public alert, you're telling me he's not going to go tell James and Joe about the public alert?
Sure,
as
but
soon
that's
as
the
he
same
sees them,
thing with yeets. I mean,
Nah,
I
I
see a
don't-
yeet, I go and
yeah.
talk to people about it.
Yeah, I don't
It's
agree.
the same
yeah.
concept.
Yeah, I get it, but I think that situation was handled poorly, in my
You've also got to
opinion.
remember
There.
that the Department of Health is very much trying to pull itself back together. It's gone through a really big upscale, so they may be focusing more on looking at training up who they can or cannot use the public health alert. So,
But again, if I'm able to shout out that I'm giving fishing licenses there every hour, why isn't someone who's a nurse able to do the same thing,
I think you're right. I think we would
Yeah,
need to
I agree
have
with
a
Bert
talk
here.
with.
I think
Yeah, I mean,
being able to-
honestly, more information is always better.
Sure, but I mean, at a certain point, you can't go and individually inform every single person in the
No, but
state. That's
I think a better
unrealistic.
effort was more deserved,
And ice contacts have always been on the person's, on the person's responsibility to get them updated, to get them, redone.
Yeah, but
it could be a
that's not
blessing in
the-
disguise. You could have.
Again.
I know for a fact that I had, on my ice contacts, I could have so and so who I know who has moved away. That's a bit silly of me to have had them on there because.
But that's your own responsibility. But it's not. It wasn't your responsibility that they got deleted, That didn't fall
No,
on
and
you
I'll
there.
agree. It's not the public's issue that they were deleted. And I don't know what the circumstances are because I vaguely read the press release. But what more are we expecting beyond yeets, which are heavily public, press releases, which are also heavily public and pressed to everyone, and then relying on word of mouth, like you were suggesting?
You just answered
You
your
know-
own question. You said you vaguely read the press release yourself here. How many other folks vaguely read it or just
Well,
pushed it
and that's
off,
on me, right? That's on
You-
me as the individual who didn't fully read the press
Well,
release.
yeah, but I'm just saying, more should have been
What-
done than just a couple yeets and a press release there. It's
Right,
just...
thank you very much, candidates. We'll move on to our next question.
long story short, get your ICE contacts done.
Okay, this was to candidate O'Neill. Leadership sometimes requires alienating one side and balancing the priorities of apartments where those priorities can clash. Can you name a circumstance where you would knowingly upset a major department in order to preserve a principle for your tenure?
I think the current situation going on with CB and the PDO is a good example, eh? You know, I think CB has a right to their Sixth Amendment right, which is the right to a public attorney there. I understand that they've made threats to the public defender's office, and I feel like the public defender's office has a right to feel safe and secure in their job. But I feel like when you sign up for a public defender, you should understand the kind of clientele you're going to be handling with there. I don't agree what CB's doing. I think that should be handled in the court system. Currently, I think there is a lawsuit going on. I don't really want to, I'm not a judge or a lawyer there. So I don't know what's going on in that court case. But, for me at the moment, I think you still have a right to your Sixth Amendment right there. But so I don't agree with the PDO not willing to provide the power of attorney to CB at the moment.
Okay, we'll now open it up for 3 minutes for other candidates to rebut.
Mr. O'Neill, I actually made a public statement in this regard, which led to an incredibly contentious phone call between Mr. Moss and myself, which then led to a much more reconcilably conversation in person. The PDO did in fact fulfill its requirements there. Obviously, Mr. Moss is conflicted out of representing the Cypress Bravos, and they did consult the opt-in system. Ultimately, they do have a right to representation if representation is available, as I've been Mirandized many times. But to be in contention with any sort of department is difficult, and it's something that I am willing to do, but something that I said to Mr. Moss that day, and something that I will say again now, is that as long as the members of the PDO's office, or any government department for that matter, are willing to work for the betterment of the state, then we are all on the same team, opinions differing or not. I am no stranger to contention, but I will do the best that I can for the people that I represent every single time.
No, and I agree with you there. It's just, I'm not saying like I understand PDO has a right to feel afraid, but, if it's, there's more than just, again, I don't know the whole situation, but like, because I'm trying to keep myself out of that one there, because I'd rather wait till the court cases decide what happens before I make up my mind on the whole situation, because that's why we have the judicial system there, is so that they can handle it there, because I feel like that's who should handle this situation. But, legislative needs to stay out of it, and it's a judicial problem. It's not really the government's problem there. But, I feel like, if CB's still being provided their Sixth Amendment right by PDO, then that I completely agree then, but from what I've heard, again, I'm just going by what I've heard from folks, is that PDO is refusing to represent CB. Now, if that's changed since the last time I've heard about the situation, then, I understand what I said was false there. But, again, this is a judicial problem. This is not really a legislative problem, but,
I mean, you're running for the executive, sir, but sorry.
That's why I'm waiting to see what the courts decide before I would make my, you should still rely on your court system as an executive branch aid,
I'm going to hop in. I, like Bella, also made a statement without knowing full context and details, and I'll be honest, I regret it. I also had a very contentious phone call with Mr. Moss, and I was wrong. I'll be honest. I didn't know the details. I lacked critical information, and I think that is a big problem, is not knowing the details. I think when you have the ability to look into this stuff, you should, no matter who you are. So there is transparency. I was informed of the PDO opt-in process and how it is used and how it is still being able to be used to give CB their Sixth Amendment rights. I do stand by my statement that your rights are your rights. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And CB is currently still getting theirs thanks to the PDO opt-in program.
I agree.
I'm sorry, we are at the 3 minutes for this question, so we do have to move on for the sake of time.
So this is a question directed to all candidates present now. We'll start off with, we'll go sort of clockwise here. So we start with Bert, move on to Luke, and then finish off with Bella Rosa. So if you were asked to summarize the way you will govern the state in one sentence right now, without referencing unity or transparency, what would you say?
I'm here to help you, eh?
Yeah, for me, let me take a fresh look at everything.
I'm here to facilitate communication.
All right. Opportunity for debate? I can't imagine there would be. We'll see if there's a bit of a silence here, and then afterwards we'll take that as a no. We'll move on to the candidate-specific questions. I'm going to take that as a no.
Okay, these next couple questions are aimed at specific candidates. This first particular question is aimed at candidate O'Neill and candidate Muratori. To those candidates, neither of you have made your platform public for this election. What do you actually intend to change once in office, and why have you not publicized this platform before now? We will start with candidate Muratori.
In 3 simple sentences, the main goals of my candidacy are to make governor's pardons either public or more actively streamlined so that individuals wishing to change are better served by the state, to form something of a business betterment league, something like the Chamber of Commerce, and to facilitate communication and legislative reform for any department that wishes it. The reason that it hasn't been publicly posted out yet is simply that I've been a little behind on ad making, I won't lie. It's really that simple. But I have spoken my platform to anyone who has asked, and at my meet and greet, and at any other time that I've been available to.
For me, it's I'd like some more, I think departments need to provide better information to its citizens there. That's mostly my platform there. Ease of access, easy to find, because I think we all deserve to find that information with ease instead of, hard time there. But the reason I don't let my platform out there is because come talk to me. I post on Yeeter all the time, where I am there. Come talk to me. Mostly I'm at Legion, so why would I want you to read it on your phone when you should just come have a conversation with me about what I like there, learn about what you might not like about me, come up with a question there that no one's asked me before, It helps me learn information about what you all are thinking and what you all, feel about the current state of the government, and then just learning it through a Yeet there, come have a conversation. That's how these things move. That's how I learn what's upsetting you, what's making you feel good there, and, things like that, eh? So I'd rather just hear from you personally than you just read it on your phone, eh?
As a bit of a follow-up question, as we open it up for the debate portion and rebuttal portion, why should you choose a candidate that has not made their goals easily accessible to them? And this is open discussion at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, the question wasn't directed at me. I've made my platform widely known. Bert, I do think it's interesting you talk about how you want to make this information publicly known about docket posting, not docket posting, but like the maps, everything like that. But you're saying, oh, just come talk to me. When, yeah, it's easy to joke. What if we don't have the time? What if I just need to quickly know something about what you stand for? Why am I?
You're not worth my time, eh?
Okay,
so
So you're saying the
so you're
people of
saying
San
yeah,
Andreas.
so you think
If you
people
can't
not
come have a
making-
conversation with me for a minute, then you don't really care, eh? If you can't take a minute out of your day to come meet me at Legion and have a minute conversation with me there,
I'd
then
like to
what-
point out that that's not what you said. That the person does not caring and them not being worth your time are two totally separate.
Okay, then I
things.
misspoke there. If you can't take the minute, the 5 minutes to come down to Legion and have a conversation with me there, then who do you care who you're voting for?
Now
eh?
this is
Okay,
You
what if
know,
I'm unable
People
to?
have lives.
Yeah, what
they
if
need
I'm
to live their
unable to?
lives.
Like, what if
Also,
I'm stuck in the hospital? I can't leave my bed, and I know this government election's happening, and it's very important to me. You're telling me, oh, I
Well, we
just
have
don't
the
care.
debate right
I
now,
just
don't
don't
we?
care.
This
Yes,
is right. This is going on right now, dear. You
this
can
is the
watch it
first
from your
time
hospital
people are
bed.
getting a chance to see your platform. This
No,
is
they're
the
not.
first time.
I've put it on
just
heat to
never
come
heard
meet
that.
me
No.
down in Legion. This is not
Yes,
the
but
first
what if
time.
they're
eh?
not able to? Is
Respectful.
what I'm saying.
how are you going to come after the Department of Health for only releasing a press release
But
and
this
some
is
tweets to tell people to
interesting,
update their
so-
ICE contact when you won't even advertise your platform, Mr. O'Neill?
Bella, also, like you talk about, just it's a lack of effort. It's an effort to make an ad about your platform. I'm sorry.
I've spent more time canvassing in person, meeting people and speaking to them
That's
than
exactly
otherwise.
what Bert's been doing, but it's the same thing. It's transparency. You say you want to be transparent about what you're doing, but people aren't getting the information unless they're coming directly to you. That's
I've
not
also
great.
yeeted about the information. I just don't have a wonderful graphic like you do. And I will very, very soon.
Yeah, I mean, it has been put out there. I just don't think it was in a flashy, graphical manner, and that may be a shortcoming, and that's easy to fix. I mean, I used to own a graphics design company. It's not that hard for me to put something together. But it has been publicized in more ways than one. We've had meet and greets where we've talked about this. You can't get information out to everyone all the time. It's just unfortunately not how it works. It gets buried, it gets buried. And I have never, even campaigning as a state rep, been comfortable with flooding Y with graphics. There are other things that people want to put out there, and it shouldn't just be all about me 24/7, even if I am running for office.
Doesn't that go into my point about how if you don't want us to flood Rye with our graphics all the time, then come have that conversation with me, come have a talk with me, because I get it. Like, people should know my platform there. I was hoping this debate brought out my platform there. People are going to watch it. People are going to see it. People are going to talk about it now there. Yeah, I could put it up on Y. I could scream it all day on Y there, but I'd rather have those folks. Again, it may be different. It might be controversial, but I'd rather have folks come and talk to me. Let me hear what your problems are.
We are out of time on that question.
We are. So we'll move on to one more candidate-specific question. So, Mr. Holliday, you made community safety for all as part of your platform. So what does this actually mean, and how do you intend to accomplish this?
Yeah, community safety for all. It's about making sure you feel safe within your community, whether that be through information on your rights, maybe being able to protect yourself. Community safety looks and comes in various shapes and sizes. I think, understanding your basic rights, obviously, as said, knowing the laws around you more clearly so that way you understand how to keep yourself safe, is a big issue. And making sure you're protected. I mean, it's kind of pretty straightforward, making sure you have your ICE contacts is a part of community safety. So that way, if something has happened to you, you may have people who are aware of any potential danger or issues you might have run into.
Thank you very much, candidate Holliday. We'll open the floor now, open to debate for any questions or any points or rebuttals on that point. Thank you very much.
I think that you're absolutely correct in wanting to ensure people's safety, and I know that the Department of Education is a pretty good part of your platform. What inroads have you made with government departments in setting up events or talking about ways in which they can do community outreach for the betterment and education of the people?
So currently speaking, I've not made any inroads. I've currently got meetings set up with several. I'm trying to get with Public Works. I've reached out to DOC. But me personally, in ways of doing it, I volunteer time and effort for cleanups around my community. I volunteer with Tortuga anytime I see them around. I even, back in December, spent my time with lifers in DOC to, inform them about improv and things like that. So that way, there's still citizens of our state, and they deserve access to that as well. Help them try to hit reformation is the idea.
I agree with that. As you know, I'm very, very big on reform. It's something that I find very important, and to that end, I've spoken to the judiciary about getting work going on some public education classes on your rights, as well as I believe in my meeting with PDO this week, I did the same.
I think these are all good things that we, I think we both see eye to eye on, and are things, that will, I think, benefit all of our citizens.
How
For
many
sure.
resources is this going to stretch out, eh? How much are you going to ask for the departments to provide there? How many resources are you asking from them? Currently,
It's more
some
about-
departments.
Sorry, but
Oh, go ahead, eh?
it's more about just time from people. We
Yeah,
have
but-
so many experts in all the different fields,
Yeah, but
in all
how do
different
we
places.
how do we know we're not asking too much from those fields to stretch? You know,
And
currently,
Communication with those
yeah, you can
departments.
communicate, eh? But
Having events again, like Bella and Amara was saying, just about building those ties and just getting
again,
the
you think
viewpoints
they,
of those.
if they had the resources, wouldn't they already be doing all that stuff, eh?
Again,
maybe they don't.
they've gone through a lot of reforms. Like SASP have gone from having multiple departments to just one. DOH has become a whole new thing. I think they're all still trying to get their feet under them. And now we know that they have so many different resources, so many different viewpoints, and so many experts who can educate everybody.
But then, while they're trying to get their feet under them, you're telling me you want them to now add more to it, eh?
I think taking, an hour, maybe 2 hours on a weekend afternoon.
But didn't
is
you
not
also say
necessarily-
earlier that people were too busy to come talk to me at Legion, eh? If they
it's
can't
just
take an
open
hour or
That's
2
not
hours
what was
there.
said. That's not what was said at all.
That's what-
We
that's
said
what
people
you
have
said.
lives
Yeah,
and
well,
people
then,
have medical
same thing for them, eh?
emergencies.
What if they don't have the resources to add to what currently you're asking there?
Then that's something that we need to look into as the
Yes.
executive. How can we help them with their
It's
resources?
about empowerment. You got to make sure they're in position to do these things, to hit this and reach it.
Empowerment in education.
All right, thank you very much, candidates. We'll move on now to some of our mail-in questions from the public.
These were all submitted by members of the public. They were submitted anonymously, of course. But to start, we will start with a question directed at candidate Muratori. This member of the public wrote in, is it true that you will be not signing nor supporting the Enemy of the State Act that would effectively punish criminal groups for repeat offenses such as harming police officers and civilians? 90
No.
seconds.
That is not entirely true, no. What I've said is that if information is brought to me that fully supports and fulfills the obligations set forth by that bill, then I will take it under serious consideration and then sign it if need be. I have told numerous individuals among the public, because I've gotten quite a few calls about this, that I can make no blanket claims to sign every enemy of the state pushed before me, or block every enemy of the state pushed before me. If somebody is an enemy to the state and fills the criteria set aside in that bill, then I absolutely am going to act on it.
Okay, we'll open it up for 3 minutes of debate. Okay, with no further discussion on that topic, we'll just move on to the next question.
So this is another question from the general public. This is posed to candidates Holiday and Muratori. The role of governor requires that you are a mediator that helps the departments they run to work together and to ensure that the way these departments run is smooth. With that in mind, how do you plan to foster a healthy and cooperative work environment if you are already publicly shaming and down-talking one of the departments you will work with? We'll turn to candidate Holiday first.
Yeah, I think the best way to approach it for mediating it is to understand, different points of view on these topics. I think understanding where a position is coming from, both sides, understanding that, a decision was made in rashness, I'm knowing this is in reference to PDO, is should. I hope that I'm able, if I'm elected, that I'm able to have a conversation where they understand my perspective and why I did what I did and why I stand by what my statement was. However, I do think being able to just have a conversation, sit down and talk it out is what's needed to be done for this.
Thank you very much, candidate Holiday, and we'll turn to candidate Muratori.
I have actually already sat down and had that conversation. After my initial contentious argument with Mr. Moss, it became my priority to get more information and sit down with the PDO's office to hash it out and figure out where we stand. Obviously, my actions and the statement that I made, while in good intention, did damage my relationship with the public defender's office, and I have made it clear to Mr. Moss and the PDO at large that as long as they are acting in the best intentions of the state, and I am acting in the best intentions of the state, then we are on the same team. And I have told them that I will be more clear in the future, and we've sort of extended an olive branch to make sure that communication and mediation is the priority moving forward.
Yeah, so we'll go in for a very short debate on this. Do any candidates have any comments, rebuttals, anything like that? Going once. Going twice. Okie dokie, we'll move on then. All right, so a light-hearted question now, away from some of the politics. Well, not necessarily from the politics, this may be very contentious. This is to all the candidates. What is your favorite restaurant? We'll start with candidate O'Neill, please.
It used to be Little Taste of Quebec, but it doesn't open anymore, So I think I gotta go with like what other one has poutine there? Probably Ari's Deli, Yeah, probably Ari's Deli there. Used to be a big fan of Little Taste of Quebec there because all the poutine options there. Yeah, that's pretty simple,
We'll
Yeah.
hear from... Oh, apologies.
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Sorry.
Okay. I'm gonna give this one very easy. I love What's Poppin'. I love their turkey legs. They're incredibly good. Their slush is also really, really good. Big fan.
I am hurt.
My favorite restaurant in the state right now is Casita. I love their chimichangas. Also, Mr. O'Neill, just so you know, Polito Snackies, I believe, also has some Canadian delights if you're ever looking for them.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just poutine. It's all about the poutine.
Oh, yeah,
there.
understandable.
That's wonderful, It's gravy and French fries and cheese and other great things,
Yeah, I got a second.
You know, we'll leave the floor open for a very, very brief debate on which restaurant's the best. We can get some views from the lieutenant governors and see if there's any conflict there.
Oh, I second the Ari's Deli. Beautiful place.
Is it
To
Caboose?
be honest, I don't know that I have
Okay.
a favorite restaurant. It's really just kind of whatever's open at the time. I'm not much of a picky eater.
Yes, anything that serves boba too, Boba. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about drinks.
Can we
Listen.
talk about Teaspoon of Boba for a
Yeah.
second?
Also,
Because
an
Elsie
incredible
was wrong.
place.
Awesome.
Listen,
Yeah,
I love
and
Elsie. I don't
beans,
drink
shameless
boba.
plug.
I don't
Anything
drink
with
boba.
boba, dear. Yeah, anything with boba.
Thanks, guys.
No problem, dear.
I think as a vibe, teaspoon's great. However, I'm not a big teaspoon of boba kind of drinker. I'm sorry.
I'm not gonna lie. I love a good girl dinner. Oh, I love a little bit of Meadow House, to be honest.
You don't like boba?
Oh,
Goddamn,
Meadow
you
House
lots
is
of boba.
fantastic.
It's
Isn't it
so
their
good.
bread bowl?
Oh, Dino Nuggies.
Oh.
Apologies,
Get down,
but
Simon.
I'm sorry to cut
as much
this
as we
short.
want to
What's your
build up,
favorite
as much as
restaurant,
we,
James Hill, Montana Moss?
Nuggies.
What's
The,
yours,
the audience are dying to
the
know.
Yeah, they're
moderator
dying to
cannot
know
show
you.
bias towards any restaurant in the,
We
in the
cannot.
city, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But we do want to get back on topic so we can get to the audience portion. The last thing before the audience portion is this: we're going to give the candidates 2 minutes to bring up the top issues for the election, and plus allow a little bit of time of rebuttals. Given that the last serious question was pointed at candidate O'Neill. We're going to start with candidate Holiday. 2 minutes to bring up your top issues.
All right. Top issues. Again, as I mentioned, I'm a big on my education empowerment and making sure that people know everything they can about to make them be the best of themselves. I think knowing your rights, knowing the laws around you are big issues. I do think transparency is key. Obviously, again, as been harped on before, we haven't heard anything about the Mirage. We still don't know anything about why it went the way it did. I think making sure we know this information of any sorts is helpful, and I think is a big thing I want to harp on. So,
Perfect. Candidate Muratori.
I'm so sorry. Could you restate the question?
Your top issues for the election.
Definitely making pardons more publicly available or publicly known. There was an instance during Tommy Merlin's last tenure where an individual completed the gubernatorial pardon process, and that information was not furnished to the state police, and that meant that her pardon was worthless and she had to go through the entire process again. I don't want that to happen to anybody else, especially given how hard it is for individuals like myself who have engaged in crime to get out of that lifestyle. Furthermore, I would like to create a better chain of communication between business owners and the Department of Commerce and Labor. I've currently been working on getting that done. In addition to, much like Mr. Holliday, increasing knowledge and transparency across the state, whether that be through community outreach or just generally telling people things that they need to know. I intend to be a very present and vocal governor.
Okay, and candidate O'Neill.
So I plan on being a voice for the voiceless there, echo for the people to trust and represent me, allow citizens a greater range of information that let them live safe and law-abiding lives there, create and enhance communal relationships for better engagement between the public and the departments. Also hold the departments accountable when I feel like they've made mistakes. You know, as Luke put earlier, the Mirage thing, the ice contact thing that I brought up earlier. I do believe that my other opponent, Bella, had made some good points about the. I do think pardons should be public. I don't know why they're not. I think folks should know who's been, pardoned or not, for their own safety. But also, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I own a horse. His name is Mayo, and Mayo neighs there.
Oh, okay. We'll give a little bit of time for rebuttals if there are any.
so why mayo? Is that like your favorite condiment?
Well, no, Mayo neighs.
Yeah, your name.
Horses neigh.
Yeah,
Mayo
you just-
neighs.
You named your
What
horse
was
Mayo.
you said his name is Mayo.
Yeah, why mayo? Why mayo?
God.
Because mayonnaise.
Why
Mayonnaise.
not ketchup?
Yeah,
Because then the
don't think
pun
they
wouldn't
get
The
work.
pun wouldn't work,
Ketchup nays? Oh yeah, you're right.
what about bolognese?
No.
Ball.
ball.
That'd be
I'm not
funny.
naming my horse
Do not name your
Bolognese.
horse
Yeah,
Ball.
yeah, I'm not naming my
Oh,
horse
that'd be
Ball
good
there.
for a roan horse, though.
Like a really
Yes,
fat
mayonnaise.
pony, a little fat Shetland pony.
Given
People
that
love food.
all the discussion was about horses, we are going to move on at this point.
No horse in our mouth.
The next set of questions is direct questions and responses from the audience. Members of the audience will take turns and ask a direct question to any candidate. Q&As must be asked in 30 seconds or less. And when you are asking your questions, please shout loudly for the candidates and the audience. Given my disability, Moderator Hill will be calling on members of the audience to ask their questions.
Indeed. So we will start off with, I could see a dear friend of mine, Ernst Schneider, in the front. Please come up and ask your question.
Hello, Ernst Schneider, now doctor with San Andreas Health Services. I want to keep it a $1.7 with you all. This question is to everyone, and it's pretty quite simple. Let's just take the kitty gloves off here. There's been a lot of yapping and a lot of
Howdy,
shots
how's
taken at other departments, but what the actual hell are you actually going to be doing? You have 4 months in the office, and you're honestly wasting our time here at the gubernatorial debates with yapping about favorite restaurants and mayonnaise horses. But all of your platforms are so far like, oh, I'm communicating, or I'm making more communication, or I'm going to be the voice for the people, which has been the platform all the other failed governors have run on before.
Damn.
We taking turns, or can we just go in? Okay.
Just go ahead.
So for me, like a lot of my, a lot of the folks who know me know I'm a hard worker, eh? I would happily hound down each department there, show up every day, knock on their door, talk to the highest person I could to find out, the things I want to know, the things I can do to help them there. There's been days I spent 18 hours up at the chicken factory in Polito, So, I'm a hard worker there. I plan on knocking down doors. I plan on bothering folks all the time, eh? I think putting in the work and the ethic there is what matters, eh? And if the folks that know me know I got a really good work ethic there. So I will gladly, keep knocking on them doors of each department and putting my foot in when they try to shut it, and just so I can get, what I'm trying to get done, eh?
You're right, Ernst. It has been a lot of, we're saying the same things previously said. That's because that's what's important to, I think, all of us, is making sure that we finally deliver on things that have been promised before, because that's what matters. To answer your questions on what I plan on doing to give you definitive plans, I want to empower departments for courses. I want Safford to teach first aid. I would love for SASP to teach first defense. I would love to empower these places to make sure they're doing it. I will help reach the funds so that way they can do this. I will make sure they have the resources necessary to do this. That's why it's important. The transparency is harder to give a direct. It's just being like, hey, we need to make sure people know about this. We're doing this, and letting them know this is what we need to be doing.
For me, at least, I do have a concrete plan for the pardon reform, as well as I've already spoken to Dockel in regards to the Business Betterment League, and we are taking plans in order to form that so that even if I'm not elected, that's something that I could potentially start as a nonprofit. Obviously, yeah, everybody's going to talk about transparency, communication, and integrity because those are the type of things you want to see from a political leader. But what I want to do is boots on the ground, get running the day that I'm elected, get my cabinet in, and then start laying down executive orders, start signing bills, and get the heck to work.
Bye. Thank you very
Get those hands up, people.
Right.
Candidate Hill's going to find another lucky contestant.
Yes, indeed. So the person in the, we'll say the red hair. So I don't know if you're going to be able to get through there. My apologies.
Hi, Bailey and Maria. I have a question that is coming off of a topic that has come up multiple times tonight, specifically the Mirage. When things bad happen in this state, what are victims' rights? At no point were the people who were the hostages in that situation sought out for questions. At no point were they given the option to come forward, and if they did come forward, what protections would they have? This needs to be reformed. Do you have a plan? Could you have a plan to do something about that?
And just to confirm, is this to any particular candidate or is this to?
This is for everybody.
Okay. All right, so we start left to right. So Bert O'Neill, sorry.
Oh, it's okay there. I would, as soon as I'm elected, I would ask the PD, like, why they weren't questioned, why nothing, why they've been so silent about that whole situation, eh? I would do my best to also make sure that those, if something similar happened again, that the legislative branch or myself put in a way to protect those people, because that's just not something I'd want to go through. That sounds like it does not sound like a good time there. So I feel like you're kind of right. If they weren't questioned there, that's kind of concerning, eh? I feel like they should have been questioned. I'm sorry they weren't questioned. If I was governor, I'd make sure that the right things were put in to protect victims like that, because they should have felt safe afterwards. They should have been provided that safety. And they've also, and I also believe that the police should also look into victim impact with things like that, eh? Like, like how does something like that impact the victim there? How does it affect the folks involved, eh? I feel like sometimes it's just, how did it involve the Mirage or whatever that place is called? I always forget the name of it, eh? Because it's just an art store. I have no interest in there because it's, there's no horses on it, eh? But yeah, it's just important there that like you find out how the victims were impacted there. So if something like that happens again, you're better prepared to handle the situation. And victim needs need to be followed up on there. I'm sorry that nothing was really done for those victims, as you're telling me right now. But if I'm elected there, I'll do my best to make sure that there's some sort of system in place for victims to feel like they're heard. That they're, what happened to them is can help folks later, with future situations, eh?
Thank you very much, Candidate O'Neill. Candidate Holiday.
Yeah, I think you're right, Bailey. I think a revision of the victim rights needs to be looked at. I think first and foremost, making sure that when these kind of heinous crimes do happen, that the people who have had this do are protected. First and foremost, they need to feel like no matter what afterwards, they're going to feel safe. They're going to be seen. They're going to be heard. Obviously, what happened is abhorrent, and the fact that there's been no follow up, no transparency, there's been no questions asked for you, is crazy. Is it's not great. It's a bad look. I think making sure people, know what your victim rights are is also key. Back to education. Some people may not know what they're entitled to after they've been a victim of a crime. So I think making sure that those rights are transparent, clear, and I honestly beefier to protect people.
Hi, Bailey. I know that you specifically, in your experience with this, you were hospitalized for a time and you felt lost when you came out. And I agree with you that I think that the Victims' Rights Act, I believe of 2026, maybe could even be expanded, but I think that something that we should look into before changing legislation is empowering departments like the Department of Health and Social Services to reach out to these, to make sure that whether through the Harper unit or elsewhere, that they are very quick to get access to mental health care, follow-ups, any sort of support from the community. And I think that given that you were not informed of your victims' rights, it sounds like, let alone given much in the way of follow-up care, that there is more that could be done here. And I apologize for the people that have failed you, and have also failed my niece, who unfortunately was also a victim in that incident.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We do have time for a couple more.
Do.
So throw those hands up.
Yes, I can see Wyatt McKenzie over there. Would you like to come
Hello.
up, Wyatt? Yes, I haven't seen you in a while. How are
Yes.
you?
Holy
hello,
shit, it's a
everybody.
wild Wyatt.
For those who do not know me, my name is Wyatt McKenzie, first of my name, former lieutenant governor, former state rep, and member of DOCL. My question for you all is, how long have you guys been preparing for this campaign? Was there a certain point in the past 4 or 6 months that has triggered your want to run for this role? This is for everybody.
Given that candidate O'Neill started the last one, we'll start this one with candidate Holiday.
To when I decided to run, actually was in the previous election cycle. I had considered running for state rep. I had looked into all what that would entail and rights like that. Unfortunately, I was not able to make the commitment to do it. I felt like I would have failed if I was elected. So I didn't want to put myself in a position where I wouldn't serve the people the best. For this most recent cycle, what really pushed me was, again, it's the most obvious one, West Marsh incident. It's set on me. I had several really close friends of mine who were impacted by that, and to see and have them feel so powerless motivated me to make a change.
For me personally, it's been a long-term thing that I've talked about, that if I ever became reformed from crime, if I ever got myself out of that lifestyle, that I would go into public service. So, in some way, I've been thinking about it for a year and a half, but more seriously, over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 months, I've really been thinking about, well, what if I run for governor this time? What would I want to do for the people? And I think that that has helped me a lot in getting this campaign going.
For me, I'd say it's about a month and a half, eh? I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm just gonna tell you the truth. I haven't been in this state for that long. If you know me, eh? I've been here since like the end of September there. It's not been very long for me, but when I heard about you could run there. I was coming up. I figured, I'd sit down and think about, like what would I like to see? Someone who's new, like what is some stuff I'd like to see there? Like some things that I feel like would help new folks coming into the state, or help folks who've been here for a while who just don't know where things are or where information is, and make it much more accessible to them there, so they're not so lost and confused. I know I haven't been around as much as my constituents here, and I know that's at my disadvantage, but I promise you that if you elect me there, I'm going to do my best to give you the best governor I can be.
Very well. Thank you all for your. Oh, go ahead.
Please make sure you're shouting if you want.
Oh yeah, that makes more sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
Through for full transparency, I will say that I was approached by Luke for to be his lieutenant governor. And did I think this is where my life would take me? Hell no. Do I think that I would be a great lieutenant governor, supportive, opinionated, for Luke? Hell yes. So I did not immediately think this was where my life would take me, but I am 100% behind my governor. Thank you.
Very well. Well, thank you all for answering my question. I wish you all luck with the rest of the campaign. I think you all will need it. Take care.
Okay, I think we
Thank you
got
very
time for
much.
one more audience question before we get to the closing
do.
statements and wrap up these debates.
So the
Moderator Hill.
person, so the person with the orange hair and the green top, like to come on down.
My question is for all of them. How are you going to hold the Humane Labs Corporation accountable for experimenting on chimps for profit?
Okay, we'll start with candidate Murray.
If this statement is true, I believe that it is a matter best put into the hands of our law enforcement. And I believe that ethical review of statements and laws regarding animal cruelty should definitely be undertaken. I know that we just had our hunting laws reformed, and I would love to do that.
What I will say, without going into too much detail, because this is still an active investigation and I couldn't possibly comment on too much of it without releasing privileged information, as a veterinarian who is working alongside the SAPD for this, it is definitely being looked into very seriously.
Yeah, I agree with Bella and Amara. It should be handled by the PD, but also knowing that SAVs is involved is important, because vets should be involved there. Maybe get the rangers are involved, just to make sure that Humane Labs is not doing anything cruel or unethical to more chimps inside that building, because that just sounds terrifying.
Obviously, I'm in agreement. I think, it's not, if these statements are true, I would wholly condone. I would ask that our law enforcement look into this and make sure that this doesn't happen. I would ask, if you have any proof to the statement, please, present it towards our law enforcement, so that way, if this is true, this can be prevented and stopped.
So basically, nothing's going to be done about it, is what I'm hearing.
If we
Kind of
find
like
evidence,
the Mirage incident.
if we find evidence of criminal activity at the humane labs in reference to the chimps that you're speaking about, it will be handled appropriate under the law.
Yeah, I still think it's being investigated there, like Amara said.
It is, yeah.
Just like the rolling blackouts that are going on. They're being investigated, but not really.
Okay, I don't know if there was a question there, so we were going to have to stop that there. Thank you for
Thank you very much for
presenting
your
your question.
Alrighty, so we will be concluding the spring 2026 gubernatorial debate by giving each candidate 30 seconds for a closing statement. Mr. Bert O'Neill, we'll start with you, and then we'll move from left to right.
Okay. You know, my closing argument is, Montana Moss, can I ask you a question, why do melons get married, The cantaloupe there. Okay, that's it,
Nice, Bert. Nice.
Okay.
Candidate Holiday.
Candidate Holiday, yes.
Yeah. All I ask is have some faith. You should bet on me and Elsie, and that we'll do the best for San Andreas.
And candidate Muratori.
I would love it if the public would myself and Amara as governor and lieutenant governor. I promise to do my best for the state and all of its people. And I strongly believe that the two of us have a really great chance of making that happen.
Thank you all. And now, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Here live at Vinewood Bowl, and those watching from everywhere else, their homes, their beaches, around the world, for seeing the Weasel News broadcast. Once again, we'd like to thank SecuriServe, the San Andreas State Police, and the San Andreas Park Rangers for providing event security. We also want to thank Craft Bar for providing food and refreshments for the evening. And I would like to thank Redwood Cigarettes for fueling my life for 29 years. Voting for this election will begin on Friday, February 20th at 2 p.m. EST, when polls open at the City Hall, and close on Monday, February 23rd at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. After voting ends that Monday, please join us for the spring 2026 election results party on Wednesday, February 25th at 9 p.m. EST, with a location that is to be determined that will be live on Weasel News. This concludes the spring 2026 gubernatorial debate. Please grab some food and refreshments on your way out. Remember to get your ICE contacts updated, and have a good night, San Andreas. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Fuck you, Montana Mon.
Okay.
I mean, wow.
I'll say.
Yeah, that was wild,
Who said that?
What a crock of shit.
Fuck. I gotta get new zip ties. God damn it.
Doing alright. I hear late.
Hard feelings,
Batman?
It could be.
I guess. Hey, the signal! The signal!
I don't know what you think.
The signal!
Yeah, Black Hawk.
Hit the signal! Hit the signal! Hit the signal! Hit the signal! Signal! Signal!
Distracted, quick! We have
She can't be angry. She
can't be angry at us.
Oh god.
Oh, she's so angry. Black Hawk Coffee is the king.
I love Black Hawk Coffee. That's not what it is,
Oh,
bestie! Bestie! Bestie, no!